They just started the stream, and while I'm waiting for my co-hosts to arrive, well, first, I'll check things out. Make sure the streams are really started. That's the infinite loop of Zoom there. Okay, we're good on the YouTube. Good on the Facebook. I'll make that an announcement. Take the promo announcement off. And I'm assuming we're good on the Twitter. I don't have a quick link to that. Let's find out. Actually, I don't know how to... There we go. I don't know how to run the Twitter machine very well. I see we're there and we have 0 viewers. Ted Corcoran, where are you? Guess we'll leave that stuff up there. What I was looking at was some of the protests that just finished in Greensboro in front of Louis DeJoy's.
Yeah, that's right. This is a major attack on low-income, working-class people. Okay?
So what is this? This is WFMY's YouTube feed. WFMY is a TV station over in Greensboro. Triad.
Stole a service from us? Charter school. Right? What happened?
I love protesters.
Turn them over to capitalists to make a profit.
See, I don't know if these guys are going to make big inroads on mainstream America by being like totally anti-capitalist. I've got a feeling most of us are at least moderately capitalist. So anyway, they're all in front of DeJoy's house over in Greensboro, and I was looking at the Google Maps. He's got quite a spread. This is the street, this Country Club Drive. That's the street that they were on. And this is his house. The driveway isn't on Country Club Drive. It's back on the other street. So, yes, I believe he's a billionaire. And that's how you live. He may just be a multi-millionaire. I don't know. Right across from golf course. Let's see, there's a few other, looking at some tweets. This is a bunch of videos that Ted Corcoran put up. This will be entertaining for a few moments.
I'm waiting by the mailbox. They say check is coming soon. $1,200 each paying and pay a bill or two. But no more aid will come our way unless I take a stand. Lord, the U.S.
So they got a good turnout.
needs a helping hand. Oh, won't you read this message? Won't you hear my mournful cry? It's hard to keep your wits down with all this.
Ted's note is
But harder times
It's not a protest in North Carolina until the banjo comes out.
Our government is doing a disservice to us all. Do not deliver us the mail should be against the law.
I wish I had musical talent.
So many men and women out risking their poor lives. Delivering goods to our front door to stop the troubled times. They make the rounds to bring us mail. They work from rain or shine. And now it seems our government is leaving them behind. I told lost my livelihood. I'm serving day by day.
Yeah, you can see the crowd there in that pan. And the official broadcast media.
But it's the postal service guys, my friends, it's all she wrote. Our government is doing a disservice to us all.
It sounds like he wrote custom lyrics for that song.
Time for us to make amends before it is too late. So fill it on the U.S. Postal Service for God's sake.
What else did Ted has got most of the Twitter videos up here.
I'm here today to talk about the vets and how the post office relates to the vets and my community. The post office was one of the main reasons my community was able to come into middle class. They hired veterans. They hired the veterans, and amongst those veterans were my people. And they raised to the middle class. So, the veterans, they hired more veterans than anybody in this country. So when you assault them, you assault me. Right. And when you assault me, I get mad. Right. And when I get mad, I support. And I will be doing anything I can this election cycle to support anybody I can that's helping get these people out of this office. I'm here today to talk about the vets and how the post office relates to the vets.
Okay, let's see what else is there. Another veteran.
North Carolina. I'm with Wall Vets, North Carolina. I'm with Wall Vets, North Carolina. I'm a Coast Guard veteran. I'm here to give you some statistics about the military and the post office. There's a little known fact that 100,000 veterans are employed by the U.S. Post Office. This is 15% of their workforce. 330,000 disabled veterans rely on the U.S. Postal Service to deliver their medications. An attack on the U.S. Postal Service is an attack on veterans and an attack on our voting rights. I did prepare for this the whole ride here. I forgot all of it.
That would happen to me.
All right. Hang on. All right, here's some things we can do to protect our veterans and to protect our voting rights. First, everyone here has to vote in the election. If you come here today and you don't go to the polls and vote, nothing you did here matters. Second, now's a good time to contact our elected representatives. We should demand an investigation and the removal of DeJoy from his position.
It's a big drum there somewhere.
The North Carolina State Board of Elections needs 25,000 volunteers to maintain and man voting places around our state. If you're an able-bodied person and you're here today, you should be able to volunteer one day to work on this. Also, they pay you.
We're going to be talking about some early voting stuff on the show today.
$125 per day. At least.
It's a lot more fun.
Okay. Jen and Breandan should be joining at any moment. Sarah will not be here today. Maybe she says maybe the very tail end, maybe, but probably not. What's happening here? Nanny Jen is dialing in. Hello, Nanny Jen. Can you hear me? Over.
I can. Can you hear me?
I can. I didn't have the volume up on the Zoom right away. I've been playing tweets from Ted Corcoran from over in Greensboro, the protest that they had going on.
Nope, it still doesn't show. Never mind. I got my noise canceling headphones, the over headphones they don't produce sound. They just block out sound. They're for like when you're mowing the lawn and stuff.
Oh, okay. So they're earmuffs, not.
Yep.
What do they call those?
I was gonna wear them because you're always talking about the
big ass headphones.
So,
actually got something about that on the boilerplate today.
My in-ear monitors.
Yes. We'll talk about them. Let me check.
They're from Massdrop. From when Massdrop was called Massdrop and not just Drop. They've changed their name.
Okay, something is wrong here.
Ooh, I'm fading into blackness.
Yeah, let me see if I can...
Where's Sarah and Breandan? Chop chop, my friends.
Sarah's not coming till maybe late. Okay, this is officially not making sense to me now. Oh.
Not making sense to me now. I'm sparkly.
Yeah, I was noticing last week that in addition to the pink hair, it comes with sparkles.
Nice. And a necklace. And it also makes my lips pinker.
Oh, it's doing that too? Yeah, and a choker. So.
Yep. And it makes me look like I have eyeshadow on and makeup. It's I like it.
Okay, the countdown has expired, so we're supposed to be doing a show now, but I'm trying to figure out. I'm also supposed to be able to.
For those of you in the audio audience, this is hilarious.
The audio audience may not ever hear this.
Gary pressed the purple button, and now everything on his screen is purple, and he is desperately trying to fix it.
And I worked on this for a long time, and thought I had it down.
At the moment, what we are seeing is the view over the back of Gary's shoulder
turning
into
purple.
His monitor, slowly turning very, very purple. But we can see multiple Garys in his monitor because we are seeing the view over Gary's shoulder into his monitor of his monitor showing the view over Gary's shoulder into his monitor.
Yeah, I thought I had this totally figured out. But I don't.
Gives off-screen hosts and guests a chance. So from the pre-show wire, Gary says that the Wirecast, which is the program he's using, gives off-screen hosts and guests a chance to pick their nose.
When I get this
and
right.
I am now on screen, and I'm going to try and pick my nose, and you guys can definitely... Oh, wait, no, I have to turn sideways. That was the elementary school trick. You have to turn sideways while rubbing the side of your nose to look like you're picking it.
You gross.
Did you not do this in elementary school? People used to fake each other out all the time by just turning their heads sideways and just rubbing along the side of their nose.
None of this is right.
So let me see if it's on the show notes that we're going to talk about UNC's massive amount of outbreaks. Or can we talk about, oh yes, the VP pick. We're going to talk about the VP pick. We're going to talk about the Democratic National Convention. So that means in the pre-show, I can talk about UNC's outbreak clusters. Sweet. So while Gary is busy trying to unpurple everything, I'll start with UNC has had 4 outbreak clusters, which if you include the free space, gives me a bingo. Bingo!
Which is pretty crazy.
Yep, I'm not surprised by Granville Towers or Sigma Nu. As soon as I saw what Rush was doing, I knew Granville Towers was going to go down, because Granville Towers is the dorm at UNC where I lived, but it also feeds the social Greek scene. Now, I joined the academic Greek scene. I am in a fraternity. It is a co-ed fraternity. People always want to correct me and say I'm a woman, so it should be a sorority. It's not. It's a fraternity. It's co-educational. We have men and women in. And we're all brothers, but it is academic. It is for students who are getting degrees in or have gotten degrees in hard sciences, or professionals working in hard sciences. But also lived in Granville Towers. And I don't know if I'd lived in a different dorm if I would have joined the fraternity quite the same, because by living in Granville Towers as a freshman, the idea of joining a Greek organization was in the air. It was being talked about wherever you went. It was in the hallways. It's the dorm that feeds the Greek, and by that I mean Panhellenic, and I don't know what the one for boys is called, societies, the social fraternities and sororities at UNC. And so when Granville Towers went down early this week, I said, as goes Granville Towers, so goes the fraternities and sororities. And then the very next outbreak cluster to be announced was Sigma Nu. And I said, what did I say? And people were like, holy crap, she knows something. But also the 2 largest dorms, especially the largest dorms for freshmen, Ehring House, also known as E House, and Hinton James, also known as HJ, they just went down. E House went down earlier this week with Granville, and HJ just went down today, I believe. That makes 4.
So you predicted
House,
it.
Granville Towers, Sigma Nu. This wig is over my hand. Sigma Nu, and now Hinton James. And then 5, if you count the bonus space on your bingo card. Ta-da. Bingo! We've got bingo.
So the kids are coming back.
The kids have been back. They moved in, I want to say 2 to 3 weeks ago.
And they're out partying, and they are COVIDing themselves. Covered in COVID.
And tomorrow
school started Monday.
Begins,
as in not tomorrow, but last Monday school started. That was the first day of classes. So the fact that we're having these outbreak clusters now, I've seen apologists on Facebook, especially in the Stay Home NC group, trying to say, well, obviously they brought it from home, not based on move-in. I mean, one of them obviously brought it from home, but this is campus spread. Now I need to pick my nose, Gary. Take me off the screen.
I can do that, but not as easily as I was hoping to be able to. Oops, I made you full screen instead.
That's okay. I can
How
wipe
is
my
my
nose.
audio today?
It sounds okay. You're on the right mic. It's a little low right now, but I think Zoom will probably bump you up.
I had to move a bunch of things around, and so
You have a different
I'm trying
microphone.
I do. That's part of my questioning, because this one's picking up too much room noise. So, and it's just a whole thing.
Is it an omnidirectional?
It's a condenser. It's a relatively inexpensive condenser. But we've moved the house around a little bit in the last week, and my noise floor has changed. So I was trying to find better ways to make it less hummy and less other things.
So far, so good.
And so back on the ATR 2100 that I think Jen is using, and you have used in the past.
Yeah. Good mic for
and I like it.
$65.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that it was sounding correct and all that.
So the new things I've seen people say, well, why is UNC the only one making the news for outbreak clusters? And guarantee you other universities have outbreaks. I guarantee. Why is UNC being the one making the news? Because the Alert Carolina text message system. It alerts. UNC has not released public statements on this. The Alert Carolina text messaging system has just publicly text messaged people, and then people have contacted the news because they received the incoming texts.
Yeah, and because of FERPA, they're not allowed to talk about certain aspects and specifics of the cases and things. So generally, universities don't talk about these kinds of things because the penalties involved in FERPA are pretty strenuous and pretty severe. However, when it comes to public safety and alert things, and you say, "Hey, there is a cluster in this building or in this area," that's not identifying individual students, so that's okay.
And UNC has always been very progressive with the town, with the Alert Carolina system. Like we got told that it is sirens, and from the house, from the yellow room in which I sit, I can hear the sirens when they go off. For like truly big, dangerous things. So they send out text messages all the time. And I, as a townie, I get them too, which say things like, "Hey, the siren you're about to hear is just a test. We have to test the system." And then I know to completely ignore it, even though there's a like super powerful thunderstorm rolling on through that's knocking out power.
But they don't put sirens out for thunderstorms.
No, but they would for a tornado. We've had tornadoes and they put out the sirens.
Yeah. Breandan, welcome back.
Thank you.
You were off having fun?
Yeah, mostly. Went to see my folks up in Asheville for a socially distant visit, which was strange. I mean, it was good, but it was strange to be there and camping in their front yard and not, going inside and having food and stuff. So it was good, but strange.
Waving at them from across the lawn.
Yeah, and then doing a bunch of camping and other things in general. Yes,
or tent?
All hammock. I have sworn off tents entirely. I much prefer the hammock and tarp system. It works out very nicely for me. So
there you are.
Yes, I apologize for being a few minutes late today.
Oh, no problem.
My wife's birthday is tomorrow, and a friend's birthday was today, and so we were trying to do, socially distant cake and stuff, and it's always weird to try to like move around spaces and do things. So
I want to once again reiterate, thank you for still social distancing. I know it's been like 6 months, and people can get very tired with fatigue. So I really appreciate that you are still keeping it up.
Yes, it's I don't want to get the coronavirus. I'm hoping to not get it at all, and not one of the whole staggered wait until later. And I'm hoping to just not get it. I'm hoping that by the time it gets to be my turn, I've gotten a vaccine that is mostly effective, and it never actually gets me. And that's how you do it, is by not being close to people that might have it, which unfortunately means like your friends and your neighbors. It's just that's what we got to do right now.
Yeah, I'm pretty much staying away. I'm counting on that Russian vaccine, though. I'm hoping they.
Yeah. Feelings.
I saw Andrew Lloyd Webber made some fame for the vaccine by getting vaccinated and then having a picture taken of himself in the vaccine trials.
The Russian one? A trial. No. Okay.
Yeah. He's in a trial. So he got some fame going for the vaccine trials right as my Facebook feed was filled with people going, "I'm not a guinea pig." Then there's like the picture of him in the middle going like, if my body's gonna have to die, I'd rather it die in order to advance science so that other people can live. And I'm like, Andrew Lloyd Webber, I understand you.
My wife applied for one of the trials, but she's never heard anything back from them.
I also am waiting
So
because
we'll
I've
see.
applied as well. I, as a former lab scientist, as a former science teacher, and as somebody who understands that nobody gets out of life alive, I figure also why not, right? The worst case scenario, they give me a placebo. Best case scenario, my life means something, matters for something.
And I guess there are two kinds of trials, and one that they are just getting started with is where they give you the vaccine and they give you COVID, as opposed to waiting around to see who just kind of catches it out there, which will be a much faster way to find out if the vaccine works, but it's a little dangerous for the person who gets it.
Oh my God, an
there's some ethical
IRB
questions there.
authorized that?
Yeah, I was about to say, like, that sounds dangerously close to violating the standards of science and, you know.
Well, it's because this thing is so bad.
I'm surprised
They're
an
doing
IRB authorized that. They didn't authorize similar for the HIV vaccine.
Well, that's because it was just them gay people we don't care about. Now it's us.
I do believe the study that I have volunteered myself for is just the vaccine, and then they're giving it to people who they consider at high risk of getting COVID-19 on their own. And since I continue to be an essential worker working out of the house, I qualify as somebody who's at high risk for, even though I, where I'm working out of the house is a pretty locked down quarantine. Nonetheless, as an essential worker working out of the house, that's all the standards for, are you at high risk of getting COVID-19?
Who did you apply to?
Duke is running. I can't remember who the pharmaceutical company they're partnered with, but Duke is running one.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know who Cindy applied to. I thought about it. They might want me. I mean, I'm like super high risk. I'm 70. I have asthma, and I have recovered from cancer recently. Those are 3 strikes, and I don't know if they want somebody like me or not. I suppose I should give them the opportunity.
Yeah. I would not volunteer with the one that then injects you with COVID-19. Let somebody like me with my relative low risk of complications.
I think
go ahead and take that.
That version is going to be very much more limited, and I don't think they're going to surprise you with it. I think
I do believe I've signed up for one where there's a possibility of placebo. So, like I said, the worst case scenario, they just don't take me. Second worst case scenario, I get the placebo and my the little ouchie in my shoulder is for nothing. Best case scenario, the ouchie in my shoulder is for something and has a marked effect on the future of humanity being better than it is presently.
Yep. So, audience, you should understand we have not started the show yet because the show does not start until the music plays. So there's a few things that I need to tell my co-hosts about. One was the Zoom thing, which failed. All the testing that I did before with setting up dummies and dolls and teddy bears and computers and stuff to test to make sure that I could do this, all that failed. And so the Zoom stuff where I was hoping to be able to just push a button and make a maybe that worked. No, that's not. It's not what I'm getting. No, it's not working. Anyway, maybe by next show I can do more close-ups or more single shots, but today it's still going to be a little bit difficult. However, here's some things that should work. And the audio audience is only going to hear this, but the video audience will see. And then Jen, you can tell me if this shows up. Let's see if this is working.
It says rant instant and on the screen. Rant instant rant editorial.
Right. So the audio audience, everybody out there is hearing except for us, because that's not the way this thing works, is hearing the klaxon horns go off irritatingly over and over again. But for a while, we were doing that for the instant editorial, and all it would say was clickbait, and I fixed it. So now it says instant editorial. So once again, all hosts and guests on the program are permitted, encouraged to break out into an instant editorial at any point. Just let me know. Or maybe I'll pick it up because that may not be what you know you're doing, but I'll recognize that it's happening, and then you get you get the title. And if we ever go back to clickbait, I save that. I can put that on there. There's a little musical treat coming up in the music. We will see. And the big announcement is that we are now streaming on Twitter live video.
Oh, Twitter. You never cease to amaze me with what new thing you will do.
It's not new for Twitter.
Not the dumpster fire of the internet.
It's not new for Twitter. It's just new for me. And I figured it out last night. Turns out it's not really Twitter. It's something called Periscope. Do you remember Periscope?
Yeah, Twitter bought them.
Yeah. And I thought that Periscope was dead because when you sneeze, your wig goes away.
Oh, that's cool. Let's do it again.
You sneeze so hard your wig falls off.
Let's do it again. Is it just dabbing? It's just dabbing.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think the sneeze really had. It was whatever you were doing that was messing up your camera thing. What is that camera thing you're doing?
It's an automated reality camera. It's an AR camera. So it's got a 3D model. Yeah, it's got a 3D model mesh of my face, and it's got points where it expects parts of my body to be, and then it has the wig is a 3D model as well with physics applied, like materials and physics applied. So it's got some like sway to it. Yep, it is. It's released through everybody's favorite company, Snap, as in Snapchat. This is SnapCam, and it's. If you get into that, you can code your own like wigs and stuff. It's very techy, and I love it.
So it's not a Zoom thing.
No, it creates a digital like additional webcam so that you can switch between on Zoom. And so I've chosen to be seen through SnapCam. I have a couple of other like fake webcams on Zoom. Or on my computer as well that I can switch between. But yeah, here I am with my pink wig, but also I can be a potato.
Oh, I like that. That's good.
One of my coworkers has a Kermit the Frog thing, so he can become Kermit the Frog during Zoom calls. It's very creepy and very funny.
And here I am as a potato. Although those of you on the audio audience, my hair and my potato-ness do not in any way impact what you think of me. And I appreciate that because really, looks should not maketh the man.
That is a potato still under...
I'm a Tiger King.
With a crown.
I'm a Tiger King potato. That's what this one... I didn't code this one.
I didn't
code the pink wig either. But this one is... The creator who made it has advertised it as Tiger King potato because I've got tiger stripes and a crown. Hence Tiger King, but also as anybody on the visual audience can see, as I move, the potato has some physics applied to it.
And you're underground. You are still growing.
Yes, I'm not a harvested potato. You cannot eat me. I am still in my natural habitat. I'm a tuber.
And so you just feed your camera into this Snap thing.
Yes.
And then Zoom sees that.
Zoom sees the output of SnapCam, yeah. And then, yep, Zoom sees the output of SnapCam. It's when I go to look at my camera options on Zoom, I'm given, since I'm on a Mac, I'm given the front-facing camera, which they call the FaceTime camera, and then I'm given the option of Snap Camera or any of the other cameras that I have, which I put on to my machine to give me virtual backgrounds because my machine itself doesn't have the capacity, doesn't have the processor or whatever to be able to natively do virtual backgrounds with things like Zoom or Skype.
Okay, so Jen is high tech.
Jen likes coding. Jen does not like getting paid to code, though. That makes all the fun go out of it. So Jen likes coding when we're not paid for it.
Breandan,
you've coded a few things.
You're a computer genius. Can you code?
I mean, I write code for work, and I write code personally at times. And I genuinely do enjoy getting paid to do that work because it is challenging and rewarding, and they pay me quite well to do that kind of work. So
So you could code Jen a new wig.
That's a different kind of coding. I mean, I could take a stab at it. It'd probably be difficult for somebody who doesn't do a lot of the visual stuff very frequently, but I could take a stab at it.
I just found when people pay me for things, it makes it an obligation and not fun, and it's just my own personal psychology.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, that's what they call it, work.
So Jen likes coding, but Jen does not like getting paid for coding, and that's just Jen's quirks.
Mm-hmm.
So last night, I was playing around with this Twitter Periscope thing, and the amazing thing was when I set it up, it worked the first time. Nothing in all of this stuff ever works the first time, and it worked the first time. So I was just goofing off with it, and this is the little Zoom. No, this is the thing that I did. I have some sound on it.
It skipped Chapel Hill altogether. Something about the geology of the land.
Yeah,
it went straight to Raleigh.
It's just using an old show for playback and goofing off. And then our guest from last week, Ted Corcoran, who has a Twitter following of over 200,000 people, decided to retweet what I was putting out. And so I don't know if you can quite see on the bottom, it says that this little thing I was testing had 2,300 or 2.3 thousand viewers.
And yet none of them will come on the show and talk about protesting in front of the Postmaster General? What's his title? His house.
Yeah, Postmaster General, I guess.
I feel like those are the people in charge of the individual post offices, though.
Those are postmasters.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. So anyway, so I was just goofing off with this and built up over 2,000 views. I don't know where they all are now. And I'm not looking at the current viewer list for what's going on now, but I don't think that they're all watching today. But they were there.
Better be protesting at DeJoy's house. I'm just saying.
Yeah, we were watching.
Messing with the Democratic vote is, and I don't mean Democratic Party vote. I mean democracy. The Democratic, as in democracy, vote is not okay.
But voter fraud. Voter suppression. That's okay.
I feel like we're doing a show, but we're still not doing a show. This is DeJoy's house.
You better include all of this in the podcast. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I will. This is his house. It
looks like some houses I've nannied at, especially with the front circular drive. I mean, nannies work for rich people. That's how we work. So we work in houses like that. Only that one looks like a McMansion kind of. Oh,
it's a thin McMansion.
I think I have.
No, I think it's a real mansion.
Is that like a water slide in the back with the pool? Because I think I've not while he was occupying the house, but I think I may not the backyard, not his front.
That's actually the backyard. This is the front.
The pool is in his front.
Well, the address is on Country Club Drive, and that is Country Club Drive, but the driveway goes to the street behind it. But this is the front.
I have realized that I have not been to that exact house, but let's just say that he doesn't have the only house with that exact landscaping pool layout in the world. I have been to a house of similar, very, very sim. I bet you I could even find the bathrooms like similar.
So it's a cookie cutter house. It's one of those.
It is.
It's a cookie cutter McMansion, is what you're saying?
Cookie cutter McMansion. Ordered it out of a catalog. Especially if the pool has a water slide. I mean, if the pool has a water slide, then we've just or a fountain where it's coming out of some rocks on the far side, then we've just absolutely,
I'm not sure whether.
I mean, there's Rich, and then there's Bespoke House Rich, and he doesn't have it.
I don't see a water slide. I do see rocks.
Yeah, if those rocks have a little fountain going on with them, that's what I'm saying.
And the detail might not be good enough from
the satellite. Oh, I get it.
Yeah, don't know.
That would explain why we keep killing so many innocent people. We just don't have that kind of detailed satellite, right?
Well, we don't. They do. But we don't. Okay, so we are live on Twitter / Periscope with not 2,000 people watching right now. Okay, shall we make this an official show? Shall we do that? Okay, now don't be too too shocked. There's going to be something different in the music here. And it screwed it up already. What is going on? Nothing is working today. Absolutely nothing is working right.
You know what's definitely not working today? The post office.
From the studio, in the bonus room, above the garage, on the north side of Cary, at the foot of Mount Belzoni, this is the Triangle Talk Show.
Let's cut the crap, kid. I want to know what the big talk's all about.
I don't think we should talk about this.
Then we talk all night.
Let's give them something to talk about. Another night of hearing myself talk.
Stop me if you've heard this one. Talk is cheap, yo. Yeah. With a little less talk and a lot more action. I don't wanna talk to me.
Let's tell it like it is and how it could be. How it was and, of course, how it should be.
Keep that motor mouth moving morning, noon, and night. If you keep on talking, baby, you know you're bound just to drive me away.
And sequestered in that studio, I am Gary Pearce.
And from the Yellow Room on the border of Carborough in the People's Republic of Chapel Hill, sequestered at the foot of the real mountain, Mount Okanichi, and on the side of the hill with the chapel up top, although it's not a chapel anymore, it's a hotel, I'm Jen, host of NannyCast.
And from the converted attic apartment on the edge of downtown Cary, nowhere near any mountain I'm familiar with, I'm Breandan Dezendorf, the host of the Practical Operations podcast. One of the hosts. There's three of us.
And Sarah Wagner, our token libertarian, is not here today. So she might show up at the tail end of the show. She was saying maybe, but probably not. So
I hope she's at the protest.
I don't know that she was there or not. And I invited Ted to come back on the show, and he might call in as he's driving back. He definitely was out there.
I was hoping he'd call in from out there, give us like the scoop, even if he's not given us the face. That
would be cool. But we'll find out. If he calls in, he'll just appear magically in the Zoom. This is episode 107 for August 16th, 2020. Just us. A chat episode. It's a chat room. We've had some guests, lots of good guests, which has been awesome. But that has meant we haven't just been able to chat and talk amongst ourselves. And I thought that would be nice to do. So.
And I missed all the guests. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you did.
I liked them.
We wouldn't have had room for you even if you had been here.
It makes me sad.
We've had some really good guests.
Yes, and we will have good guests in the future. But I invited a couple of people that I didn't think were going to come, and turns out that they didn't even respond. So, but we'll have good guests coming up. The boilerplate. We'll share the boilerplate. I'll get the first line in here. Triangle Talk Show is a YouTube, a Twitter Periscope, and Facebook live show and podcast for the Triangle area of North Carolina. Jen.
Note that although he likes to put us out on video, I still claim that we are a podcast.
We identify as podcast.
We are on an RSS feed, and you can download our audio only and get everything you need to get, although it's very long. But hopefully you have a long commute.
Jen, you're ad-libbing.
Yes, I am. Because I'm not going to talk about microphones and headphones.
Breandan, would you do that part then?
Yeah, so the microphones are more important than the headphones. I declined to use the verbiage in the script as well, just because of the words. But you know,
there's an option that comes up down there a little bit.
Yeah, the headphones aren't actually super important. It's having reasonable quality audio interface so people on the podcast can hear you with the holes in the sides of their head that they hear out of.
Yeah. So the big microphones, the BAMs, the big ass microphones, which I'm going to refer to now as the BAM, are the important part of being a podcast. As we have discovered watching CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, all the networks, all of the shows that are bringing people in on their Zooms and Skypes and stuff, that are talking on their computer microphones and sounding like they are 1,000 feet away from their microphone and in a big room full of echo. That's what it sounds like when you're not a podcast. Did that sound really bad?
Yeah, well, you can do podcasts with the built-in microphones. It doesn't sound so great.
Yeah.
Honestly, just a pair of earbuds that have the little microphone that dangles from the thing works fine.
Works pretty good. Yeah.
So
I've attended some of these from various places around the world being around Chapel Hill with my pink earbuds with a little built-in microphone. Nobody's complained.
Well,
It just said it sounds slightly worse than fuzzy over here.
yeah, and you got a real lavalier there somewhere.
I do have a real lavalier.
And so I'm conceding that your in-ear monitors they're really more of a TV thing than a podcast or audio thing, because people on TV try to hide all this stuff.
There's my lavalier microphone.
Yeah,
It's got a fuzzy on it too.
I'll give you big, let you biggerize it.
Yes, but hold on, my fake hair is in the way. I have a fuzzy on my lavalier microphone too. I can clip it on.
And when you hold that up, your magic hair thing gets confused.
My fuzzy lavalier microphone, and then it's got a little fuzzy plug-in lavalier microphone, and I like these. Gary does not like these. Gary got me big fuzzy. Now I use big fuzzy, but only when I'm home.
Yeah. I think it sounds a little better, but surprisingly not that much better. So what I'm boiling this down to is, what do you want to tell your friends that you do? Do you
Call it
want
a talk show.
You tell them you're on a podcast or on a YouTube show?
I call it a podcast.
I call it a talk show.
All of my friends listen to podcasts, and almost none of them do video content of any variety in terms of live anything.
Yeah. The audience-wise, we get more people paying attention on video at this point.
Interesting.
And
may they forever love my fake pink hair then.
And it's the place where we get the most of them is on the Facebook group. Which
is a self-selecting audience.
I guess, yeah. Which, by the way, Jen, is not a private group; it's a public group that requires acceptance. You have to be voted onto the island. And that was just an attempt to control what I expected to be a flood of people spamming the group and stuff. That never happened. I made it easier to join. If you're within 25 miles of Raleigh and are in at least one other group, I think those are the rules. You're automatically brought in. Yeah, I don't think anybody wants to be known as, I do a YouTube show, unless you're 13 years old.
I call it a talk show. I say that we have a synchronous element that is video, and then we have an asynchronous audio element that you can receive as a podcast.
Let me see if I can get Breandan to do the next one, where it starts with, we talk about anything we want to.
Yeah, we do. We talk about all kinds of things we want to talk about.
And?
We talk more or less about things of interest to people in the area.
I'm laughing because because audio audience and video audience as well, you cannot see that Gary has written our lines out for us, and he has included some very interesting choice of words.
Yeah, there they
in
are.
These lines, and Breandan deftly sidestepped that.
It's a little game we've been playing.
I'm giving you the quote marks.
Mm-hmm.
You can say it with quote marks, so that you don't actually mean it.
The pants hanging from the sky.
Things
quote marks.
more or less interest to triangularians.
He said it. All right, I got him to say it. Yes, and we do the gang sign for trying, because this is legitimately what I thought you do when you're doing air quotes.
For those on the audio-only podcast, he is hanging his fingers down from the sky like they're a pair of drawers you strung up on the wash line.
Yeah. And so...
Welcome back to Air English. Today, let's talk about air quotes.
We're going to learn about air quotes.
We use air quotes when we are being sarcastic, when we are emphasizing something someone else has said, or when we are saying something that we personally don't think is an accurate or appropriate description of something. The air quotes are supposed to look
She's doing them right,
quotation
right?
marks.
Yes.
We use quotation marks.
Hands
when we
at the
are
bottom of
borrowing
the frame
words from
and
someone
fingers
else.
looking like bunny hops.
We usually use our
Can you
fingers
believe that there's
and
somebody
our
doing
tone
a YouTube video
to emphasize
this
that
earnestly
it is a
about air
different
quotes?
speaker we are
Yes.
borrowing the words from.
Yeah, I totally
We
believe
really
it.
like that sweet, sweet ad revenue, which we don't have as the Triangle Talk Show. But she does.
That's true. We don't. She's got 3,098 views on this.
Yes.
So it's not like some of the videos we were watching of the kids looking at music that's outside of their genre. Those were in the hundreds of thousands of views, but we've never had 3,000 views. So
I'm saying she likes that sweet, sweet ad revenue. Get your hustle, girl. Get your hustle.
3,000 views is not going to make you a lot of money.
Again,
It'll make you more money than no money. What are we turning down free money for the point of having to just space your iPhone and like make a bunch of air quotes while saying earnest things for about 5 minutes? No.
And it seems to be a couple of takes, or maybe it's one take and then she just clipped it together. So this is probably 15 minutes of her life in terms of video, and then another 15 to edit. So yeah.
Yeah, she's doing the thing that has become a thing these days, which is just do jump cuts.
I like jump cuts. Not gonna
I
lie.
dislike jump cuts intensely.
Yeah,
They take like 5 seconds. They're beautiful.
I spent an inordinate amount of time in my life as a video editor covering up jump cuts with
but to the viewer they're very jarring.
And reaction shots. Well, apparently they're not anymore because nobody seems to care. Anyway, so I have learned this.
But I jump cut and then I zoom in, or jump cut and zoom out. So I make it, if we're going to be jarring, we're going to be in your face about it.
Yeah, that's just a new technique of covering the jump cut, somewhat. She was awfully earnest about it, though.
She was.
If
get your money, girl. Get your hustle.
If you were Jen, if you're going to do a tutorial video, would you come off that dead earnest?
I believe I have done some tutorial videos because I did a whole series, I want to say back in 2016, 2017, where there's a subreddit called video editing, and all the people were using like the big fancy video editing software. And so I did a whole series where I was like, Jen does this with iMovie. And I showed how for no money and maybe a slight degradation in quality, you could produce the exact same effects on iMovie that you can produce on, big software. And I'm pretty sure I came off
every bit that earnest.
So earnest, I looked dead in the water because most of it was me just going, and then you do this, and then you do that, and then you do this. And then look at that. There are 4 separate videos playing in 4 separate quadrants on your screen simultaneously.
Breandan, your whole show is kind of earnest like that, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean and it's all audio only, but we try to keep a very serious kind of businessy tone to it,
which is why you like coming here.
Yeah, this is much more relaxed in that sense. And at some point,
Nanny Cast is earnest.
Yeah, I think so too. I've done earnest. It's been a while. Let's see. It's
important to be earnest.
I mean, when you're passing along factual information, especially evergreen factual information, and the tone really does matter in terms of how credible people take it.
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay, so we're not credible at all, I believe is what you're saying.
Well, we're doing an opinion show. We're not talking about hard fact in most cases. And when we do that, we switch into the, no, seriously, folks, wear your masks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, don't put your absentee ballot in the mail.
Coming up. All that's coming up. We are unfair and unbalanced on the left-leaning side of politics, except for Sarah Wagner, our token libertarian, our Schrodinger's cat of politics. And I'm sorry that she's not here to hear this, but she provides poise, if not necessarily balance. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. I mean, she's on a different axis. Left and right are on one axis. Libertarian and authoritarian are on a different axis. You can be left and authoritarian, and you can be right and authoritarian. You can be left and libertarian. You can be right and libertarian. They're different. It's a two-axis system.
Okay. I think I understand. Our website is triangletalkshow.com. Our Facebook group is Triangle Talk Show. Technically, facebook.com/Triangle Talk Show. Our YouTube channel, Triangle Talk Show. And we have a new YouTube challenge, which we introduced last week. The old challenge was to get 100 subscribers so that we could get the custom URL, which we did. The new challenge is to get 1,000 subscribers so that we can do mobile live streaming.
So that you guys could see from my phone at the House of DeJoy what the protest looked like. Except we don't have mobile live streaming, so I'm in the yellow room. See what you did to yourself, listeners? See what you did?
We could have done that on Facebook.
Hang on. But we should thank the current listeners and the current subscribers because they've gotten us this far.
That's right.
It's the new people. It's people who haven't yet subscribed who are at fault.
There aren't 1,000 people out there watching to subscribe to put us over 1,000.
Yeah,
but
and they're the people at fault.
We're working on it. And my great hope is that it's the folks that follow Ted. The 250,000 people that follow Ted, 2,500 of whom showed up on my little Twitter thing. You guys, you're the hope. Let's see. I won't rant about YouTube this time. I ranted about them last time. It did take us 2 years to get to 100. I don't know if 1,000 will be possible. We also would need 1,000 people to monetize our videos, but we're not planning on ever doing that. Maybe a Patreon thing someday where, it's just begging for money if we ever need it. A GoFundMe, perhaps. The reason why we would need any kind of funding at all is to raise money to replace the hardware. I did some research, and the computer that is running, well, you can't actually see the computer. It's back behind all this stuff. The computer that's running all of the switching and stuff like that is from 2013. Breandan, that's like 1,000 years old in computer years, right?
Pretty much. Although I was digging through stuff in the past couple of weeks, and I did find one of the bins I have packed away with anti-static bags. And I have several extra network cards. So if you are still looking for a network card, I can help you out there.
I was impressed that network card died a couple of weeks ago, last time Breandan was here. And I rushed out to Best Buy, and I didn't get a network card to put in the computer because that would have required taking the computer apart. And the morning of a podcast, I was a little concerned about that. So instead, I just got a USB to Ethernet adapter, plugged it into a USB 3 port on the computer. And I'm surprised. I'm getting the gigabit out of that. So the USB is pretty impressive.
Gigabit internet where I am. That would be nice.
One of these.
Yeah.
The Raspberry Pi probably could do your Wirecast streaming. And they're, $40-$50 a piece. So little computer.
I was going to hit up the audience for more like 5,000 or 10,000. So stop with your $50 Raspberry Pis.
Okay. And the audience could just straight up drop off a computer for you like they did masks for me.
They could.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that. Well, the Raspberry Pi wouldn't do Wirecast. It could do video streaming. We could dump the fancy switching and stuff. We would need one other thing. We would need 4,000 watch hours to start monetizing. If we wanted to monetize, which we don't.
That's why these go so long.
Is that why? Okay, sorry. Is that 4,000 or 5,000 hours of people having watched, or is that 4,000 or 5,000 hours of content available to watch?
No, of people actually sitting there staring at their computers.
So you drag the stuff out so that people keep watching. I get it.
Well, we're 45 minutes into the show and we haven't finished the boilerplate yet. So.
But we already did half a show.
Yeah, we did half a show before the boilerplate. So we would need 4,000 watch hours to begin monetizing. We have 503 before we started this show. So I guess is that depressing? I don't know.
Our Twitter is @TalkTriangle. So is our Periscope. And you can watch us live or on Memorex on your Twitter. What? The words? I know what each one of those means individually in this order.
Is this a VHS joke?
Jen may be too young to know the phrase on Memorex. Is it live or is it Memorex?
I know. I was alive for beta tapes.
Okay. Do you remember the commercials? Is it live or is it Memorex?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what that references to.
Oh, you can watch us on Twitter whenever you feel like.
Yeah, that's old people's phrase.
But Gary would like you to not watch us on Twitter. He would like you to watch us on YouTube so his number of watched hours can keep climbing.
Oh, let me turn off the Twitter and the Facebook thing. Jeez. What was I thinking?
And podcast-wise, we're on...
He likes gaining your fake internet points. He likes seeing internet numbers go up higher and higher, even though they get him nothing.
Pro tip, don't look at your numbers. It doesn't help.
Don't look at them.
It doesn't make you feel better.
No, and especially don't look at the audience retention. I don't know if you ever looked at that, but that's the chart of you start with 100% and then it drops off as the audience drops off. Oh, that is depressing.
I don't look at these things.
Yeah.
You were saying, podcast-wise, we are...
Yes. On pretty much every podcast app, because we don't do any of the silly, stupid stuff where we're locked into a particular ecosystem, because this is an actual podcast with an actual RSS feed that links to media files.
Here's our podcast pride.
Yeah, so we're on Apple Music, which is still iTunes on Windows for whatever reason, because Apple hasn't... Anyway, TuneIn, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, no longer Google Music something, but Google Podcasts, because they've changed the name of their product yet again. And this also means you can use any podcast client, Overcast, Pocket Cast. I'm
a Pocket Cast girl. It's owned by NPR.
And they're all good. I use something called Podcast Republic. It's a really good app. Today's episode of the Triangle Talk Show is brought to you by Podcast Republic. I think
also,
it's Android
other
only.
Places, any smart speaker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, from TuneIn.
Well, I mean, you can get it from anywhere, but TuneIn's probably going to be your source.
Yeah. So like us, rate us, review us.
Share us with your friends.
I don't know what any of that means. Like us, rate us, review us. I've never done any of that.
No, that's more fake internet numbers.
Well, actually, if the listener were to go into the Apple Podcast directory via whatever means they do and do ratings there, it surfaces podcasts higher. And Apple's directory, I still believe, has something like 55 or 60% of the viewership. So when you're looking for new stuff and new listeners are trying to find something else to listen to, that is one of the major driving sources. So listeners, if you like the show, that's a good place to go. Or tell your friends directly about us, and then they can listen.
I'm going to suggest that each one, reach one, teach one is probably better, because then you can make more tailored recommendations to your friends. And then they're not just having a crapshoot.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell somebody you know how great the show is. Whenever I say something like that, then I start to worry, because you tell somebody that you recommend listening to the show, and your friend does, and then what is your friend going to think of you?
So my mom's tuned in on the Beaver Pageant episode. Was her first episode.
Well, that was a good one.
Yeah,
that was fun.
I was amused for that particular.
Did she ever come back again for another one?
I think so. I know that she's listened to at least more than one, but that was her first, and I was amused by that coincidence in life.
It's good. Well,
and I chose a really good time to take vacation for a week. So nothing happened last week, right?
Yes, last week was devoid of news.
Good. I'm really happy to hear that, because I was Lake Jordan and I was up in the mountains.
All we had were 4 and a free space outbreak clusters at UNC.
Yeah.
Our bingo.
Okay, so maybe we learned who the vice president nominee.
I have a great story about that.
Okay, is it a rant? Is it an instant editorial? Because I want to push the button real bad.
It's the story of how I discovered that information dropped.
Okay.
So I was visiting a friend. Don't worry, socially distant, and we decided what we really wanted in life was Little Caesar's Pizza, because there is no Little Caesar's Pizza where I am, and there's Little Caesar's Pizza where he is. So we go to the Little Caesar's to get, with masks, of course, for neither one of us are fools. He's had a COVID test recently, et cetera, et cetera. But we go to Little Caesar's to get a pizza. And Little Caesars has these great vinyl pizza slices on the floor to keep you 6 feet apart from other people. And everybody were on them and they were wearing their masks. And this one lovely individual was wearing a mask that said Black Lives Matter, which I was like, yes, that's what masks are for. They're for
and by the way,
advertising.
I think that they weren't just vinyl pizza slices. They were real pizza slices. They just happened to, Little Caesars are made of vinyl. It's Little Caesars.
There's my little side note, which is masks are another place where you can put shit that's interesting that people need to read about you. But all of a sudden, so I'm checking my phone as we're waiting for the pizzas to come out because hot and ready, just neither one of those were true. And my Facebook starts going, oh my God, I can't believe it. What? Who? How? Like different posts. And I went, something, and I look up from my phone and I look around the store and I go, something just happened. What just happened? My Facebook is blowing up and everybody's being vague. What just happened? And then somebody posts, I can't believe Biden did that. And I said, Biden did something. What's happening? And everybody else in the store is frantically like pulling out their phones and looking. And I hear somebody meekly go, Biden picked a vice president. He picked Senator Kamala Harris. And then the whole store just erupts in noise. And then one guy in the store goes, but she's not black. She doesn't look black. And like and then the noise focused down from just general noise to like very specific, like very loudly by multiple people at the same time. He got educated about Kamala Harris.
So kind of like, he's not my favorite politician. She's also not my favorite politician. I'm still delighted that he picked her and that this is happening.
I'm voting. I'm still voting. I just I don't know what's happening inside the Democratic Party because Gabbard basically buried Harris when they were running for president with the whole DNA exonerating the guy on death row about to get killed. And Harris was the one who went, nah, not only are we not going to test this DNA ourselves, but we're also not going to give it to his defense to get tested. I thought that was going to be the kiss of death. And I still, mark my words, fear that is going to be the kiss of death. She is not the only biracial black lady prosecutor the Democrats have on the bench. Why her?
I would go with name recognition.
She's not having her name recognized for good things.
Well, there is an element of people that are paying careful attention to that bit of her history. I will posit that it's not the phrase.
But that's the reason she got kicked out of the Democratic primaries. Like, if Homie couldn't make it as a president, why are you going to pick up somebody who's already tainted as a vice president? Yeah. I'm not saying that you cannot change or grow or whatever. I'm just saying that this might not be maybe not the year you want to hitch your horse to a wagon of any problematicness at all.
The year's been bad enough already.
Yeah, I just think people, by and large, don't care about that. That is sort of the Hillary's emails of this year's.
Only because a court ordered her to hand over that and the guy didn't die. I mean, she was on board with killing an innocent man because she didn't want to do some science. Yeah. And I understand why she didn't want to do some science. I get it that running DNA analysis costs money. And when you're in her position, you are in charge of keeping yourself under a budget. But give it to the defense. Let them run it on their budget. That's where I don't understand.
And the world of being a prosecutor is a tough world if you're going to be progressive, because progressiveness and prosecutors don't mix very well.
Again, she's not my favorite person. I have no problems with this pick personally.
Yeah,
there are probably other picks that would have been better, but it doesn't change how I'm going to vote, or honestly, anybody that I know is going to vote on either side. So let's keep going.
Yep.
And folks, vote. Everybody out there, everybody who's listening,
don't
vote.
Mail it in.
Don't phone it in either.
That's coming up next. So one thing about that is, for as well known as she is, I'm hearing all kinds of variations in how to pronounce her name. So I will help you all on how to pronounce her name. It's Harris.
Yes, she's Senator Harris. She deserves both her title and her last name, just like you do for men.
Yeah. First name wise, I believe that the consensus is Kamala.
That's how she's chosen to pronounce it. Yeah.
And that's what I'm getting from most of the network news people. I haven't heard her actually say it, I don't think. But there's a lot of Kamala out there and a little bit of Kamala.
The Kamala is because that's how the Indians in the, whether they are native or, first generation American or whatever, that's how they would pronounce that name. It is an Indian first name. And so if you are somebody making that honest mistake, you get a pass.
And as an immigrant, is she qualified to be president?
Yeah. She was born here. The end.
Yeah. But her parents weren't.
Doesn't matter. This is ninth grade civics stuff. If you were born on U.S. soil or you are born to a U.S. citizen, we're like the only country in the world, I believe. This came up in trivia, and I believe that this is true. Although I haven't fact checked it, other than that we said it, and then we got a point for it in trivia. We are the only country that has both as citizenship ways. Some are by blood, I don't remember. Some are by blood, and some are by location. We are the only one who is by both.
I was under the impression that you had to be born in the U.S. to be president, though. That it wasn't. If you were born in another country to U.S. parents, you could not be president.
No, I think you can.
Okay.
You can.
I could be totally wrong on that one.
You have to be a natural U.S. citizen, meaning not somebody who gained citizenship later in life. That's why Arnold Schwarzenegger can't. But you have to be a citizen by blood or by location, and she's by location, and that's one of the things we do. There's a name for it, and I keep coming up with de jure and de facto, but that's not. That's by law and by fact. It's de. So what's the word for blood? Desang and something. We're the only country that allows both. So saith the trivia. So if I'm wrong, don't tell me, because then my score goes down in trivia. Tell the trivia master.
Yeah, I'm looking at some Wikipedias here. That is directed by the Constitution. The presidential candidate must be a natural-born citizen.
And natural born doesn't mean on our soil. It means naturally born as a citizen.
Yeah, unfortunately, as words, doesn't mean anything. It's a gibberish phrase. But it has to then be defined.
Yeah, I'm saying as defined by the Supreme Court.
A resident for 14 years and 35 years of age or older. So there we go. She can be president.
She tried.
Yeah. In the rundown here, I got a question about any takeaways or commentaries from last week's show on protesters. Anybody?
I'm curious to see whether or not the protest that's happening in front of DeJoy's house, aka the Postmaster General, who is removing blue mailboxes, sorting machines, purposely delaying the mail. I'm wondering whether the protest in front of his house followed the 3-stage rule set out by Sarah, our token professional organizer, which is get mad, talk about how it can be better, and then tell people what their next step is.
I think they probably did that. It is over. It lasted a little over an hour. I saw the end of it on WFMY, the Greensboro TV station's Facebook feed or YouTube feed, I think. They must have more than 1,000 subscribers because they had it live on YouTube from the field. And I saw a guy. It was pretty big. It was a couple hundred people, it looked like. But I wasn't watching every minute of it. But I saw the end. They basically said, "Be safe, go home." No police in riot gear marching through to break things up. I didn't see any police at all. Just seemed to, everybody had a good time and went home. It was very anti-capitalist. That's a takeaway I got listening to one guy who was railing about capitalists, and then he wanted to go do you can vote for Biden if you want to, and people around him are starting to say, don't go there. But I'm thinking
there's a lot of eat the rich going on right now.
Yeah, I'm thinking being virulently anti-capitalist is not going to take you a long way. I know that there are people who are. I think many of us are still, we're not that upset with capitalism. It's got its problems.
Every economic system contains within it the seeds of its own demise.
Yeah.
It's just a question of the devil you know or the devil you don't know.
Yeah. But it was a fun show anyway last week. We learned a lot. My voting plan. Now let's see if we can tear this apart.
Do not mail it.
Get and complete an absentee ballot. Take it to an early voting site at the office of off hours. And by the way, that can be any early voting site in the county. You don't have to go to the one closest to you. You don't have to go to any specific one. Any early voting site in your county will work. If the line is short and distancing and masking looks good and it looks safe inside, I'll vote in person. If the line is long or unsafe, my plan was, well, then just drop the ballot off, because you can drop it off at any early voting site. But
I take it Wake County does not have the drop-off boxes for just pulling up next to it with your car and just tossing it out like the blue mailboxes that are being removed by DeJoy. They
don't. My plan has been screwed by the FAQ. Am I saying that right? FAQ for the Board of Elections? Wake County Board of Elections.
Do they not then send a person out to curbside if you call and say, I am high risk and sick and I need to just hand over a mail-in ballot or an absentee ballot?
Here's what they say. If you drop off a sealed absentee ballot at an early voting site, you have to wait in line. The language from the Wake County Board of Elections website is, and this is like a Q&A, may I hand deliver my voted absentee ballot at an early voting location? And the answer is yes. You must stand in line until you can flag down an elections official to let them know you are returning an absentee ballot.
What if you can flag them down from your car on a cell phone?
In some locations,
by calling the curbside voting number.
Do they have such a thing?
Curbside voting. Does Wake County not have curbside voting? We do that we do that in Orange County for people who have mobility issues and just physically cannot get into the building to cast their vote. A specially trained elections official comes out to them with a little table that they can hook on the side of the car, and they can do their vote from the car.
I think I have seen something like that at my early voting site, which is just down the road from Breandan, the Herb C. Young Community Center in Cary. But I've poured through the websites, the Q&As and all that stuff, and never came across that concept.
My favorite library in Durham County also, I see the signs out like this zone is for curbside voting. If you need to vote curbside, here's how you let somebody inside know that you're here.
That may exist, but again,
Wake County, what you doing?
Yeah.
What are you even doing?
So if I don't like what I'm seeing at my local place, then
Looking
go to
online. Wake County does have curbside voting. I'm scanning through the website really quickly, and I hate to do this while we're kind of live and I'm just sort of dithering, but there is you must be physically unable to enter the polling place. And then they have curbside voting. Age or physical disability. There are parking places near the polling places called curbside voting, and poll workers monitor the parking space throughout the day and will come to your car when you park in the designated space.
Yeah.
No need to call. You just pull up to the designated curbside voting spaces at your polling place, and there will be a polling representative coming out to see you.
So if you are not disabled, and I'm not sure that, me going up there and saying, I'm 70 years old, I have asthma, and I have survived cancer, I'm not sure they're going to call that good enough. We will see.
I would try anyway, honestly.
Yeah.
If I were you, I would try.
I'm pretty sure that would count for me as physically unable to go into the...
Yes.
We'll see. I got a feeling that between now and October 15th, I think, is the beginning of early voting. I think we will hear more about this. What I'm noting, however, is that and if I can go to the Board of Elections office instead to turn in my ballot if I don't like what I'm seeing at my polling place. But this is a plan of privilege for a couple things, for time and for the ability to have transportation.
Yes.
If you don't have the time, if you're holding down a job, if you're one of those essential employees holding down a minimum wage job, and you travel on by bus, then this could be a very hard plan for you to follow.
If you don't have time or transportation, or have time to go if you had transportation, but you don't, so you need to use public transit, please contact your local Get Out the Vote. You can be transported. People will send you, at no cost to you, a vehicle.
That's cool. Where is this Get Out to Vote?
Get Out the Vote. It's a nationwide initiative to just get people out to vote. I've always found their website by just Googling the words "Get Out the Vote," and it'll connect you with whoever your local person is, your local branch is, and they are nonpartisan, they're non-denominational. They're biased. Their whole goal of the whole group is just get you to vote. They want to enable voting. They don't care who you vote for. They just want to enable you to be able to vote. And this includes comped taxis or volunteers driving you, or big buses at times when there wasn't COVID on anybody's hands. Like a big bus would collect people from a neighborhood and transport people to the local polling site or whatever. They would get you out to vote.
Okay. And do you know for sure that's going on around here?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
All right. Probably doing a web search, Get Out the Vote.
Get Out the Vote.
I'll do such a web search. Get Out. Google suggested get your ducks in a row as the first out. Okay, there it is. Pretty quick. Came up pretty quick.
Yep. Get Out the Vote. That's what they do. And help helps. Yeah, Rock the Vote tends to supply them with money. Rock the Vote is their fundraising effort.
Okay, so there's a bunch of this.
Yeah, it's national, and they're everywhere. There's Wake County, there's Orange County, there's Durham County. Those are the three counties that make up the triangle. But there's if you're in Harnett County has a Get Out the Vote. There's Chatham County Get Out the Vote. It is. And it has been, and you're forgiven for not knowing about it, but it is and has been and will I hope continue to be, thanks to Rock the Vote, fundraising for them. Always something there, because they are the people fighting voter suppression in terms of trying to make it inconvenient for those who are unable to transport themselves to a location to vote in a timely manner.
Excellent. So I, in doing the research this week to find a lot of this stuff, I came across some interesting things that I had not heard very much about, and answer some questions. Absentee ballots received after 5 p.m. on Election Day will be timely. Am I being earnest now? Is this what it looks like when someone is being extra earnest? Absentee ballots received after 5 o'clock on Election Day will be timely only if they are received by mail no later than 5 p.m. on the third day following the date of the election, and postmarked on or before Election Day. So this is why
we cannot mail our ballots, ladies and gentlemen. This is why we have to deliver them by hand.
Yeah. So Tuesday is the Election Day. Tuesday, the third day following Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 5 p.m. on Friday. Mm-hmm. And that's what Trump and his postmaster DeJoy are trying to wreck. It could easily take more than 3 days at this point. If you're going to mail your ballot, well, there may be other good reasons not to, but you don't want to wait until the day of the election, or even the day before. Want to mail it
weeks ahead of time, or hand deliver it.
You just want to hand deliver it, because I'm not even trusting weeks ahead of time.
Isn't tampering with the mail system?
They have to deliver it eventually, but there's nothing about deliver it at any particular time. The mail is not, even first class mail doesn't have a time limit. They just can't open it for you or keep it and never deliver it.
But neither rain nor snow nor gloom of night.
Or fascism.
Shall stay this faithful courier from swift completion of his or her appointed rounds. I may be even close on that quote. I'm not sure.
You are very close on that.
One stop absentee voting. The thing we keep calling early voting in North Carolina is technically one-stop absentee voting. We're all voting absentee when we vote early.
Yes.
It allows any registered voter to cast an absentee ballot in person on select days prior to Election Day. So technically
and
it's
just
all
like
absentee.
any other absentee ballot, they're not counted unless the margin between the candidates is smaller than the number of absentee ballots they have that they haven't counted yet.
Some Q&A. Can I vote the ballot, mail it in, and then change my mind and cancel it later and vote on Election Day instead?
No.
Once you return your ballot, you may not change or cancel your ballot. And if you go vote in person after that, I believe that's called a felony.
Yes. Now that is actually voter fraud.
Yeah. And they will catch you.
It really amuses me that there is a 300-page PDF on one of the very Republican voter fraud things talking about various, cases of voter fraud in the last 25 years. And there's 2 cases per page because all their extensive research could only pick up like 800 or 900 cases in the last 25 years of voter fraud.
And most of those being Republicans.
Yeah, so I'm not.
It's
so
not
sure.
It's not a good look if Republicans are pointing to the historic data because it makes them. I mean, they're just telling on themselves, really.
Well, also okay, sure. Let's say we have as much voter fraud this election as we've had for the last 25 years combined. That's still only a couple thousand votes at most, because there are cases where people have cast 2, 3, 5, 10 ballots, but most of the time. It's a felon was voting they weren't supposed to be, but they didn't have the rights restored yet, or somebody cast 2 votes, or somebody didn't properly fill out a form, or those kinds of things. It's not somebody casting 1,000 votes. So if we had the summation of the last 25 years of voter fraud happen this year, it wouldn't be a rounding error in most counties in North Carolina. So that's not my concern. My concern is fascism and the wanton destruction of our civil institutions to keep a fair election from happening. Yeah,
the conventional wisdom is that voting by mail is safe until Trump.
It was safe.
Yeah, it was safe, and now.
It's still. Your ballot will absolutely not be changed. It just won't be delivered.
I would say that if you. I'm not sure exactly when we will receive the actual ballot that we can turn around and send back in. But if you do it,
it's not going to be timely.
If you got a couple of weeks to play with, you're probably okay. And there are ways to find out if it's been received. I'm not sure what they are right now because I didn't do enough research on that. But there are ways to tell that it's been received. In fact, there's a lot of ways to screw up your ballot. And if your ballot gets rejected, and I think this was something decided in court recently, will I have a chance to remedy any deficiencies? And it says here that county boards of elections will contact voters when there are deficiencies with their absentee ballot. You should provide your phone number or email address on the request form in case the county board needs to contact you. And they will call you up and say, "You voted for who? Are you sure? You sure you wanted to vote for them?" They won't do that. You guys are letting me get away with this.
What happens to those of us who stop answering numbers they don't know because of the robocall?
That could be a problem. Maybe email.
I will say this. If you do pop it in the mail, and if DeJoy does manage to, oh darn, those just didn't get delivered for 4 months. Those Democrats, the Democratic Party, better. And if not, then the Libertarian Party, better. And if not, then the Green Party, better. And if not, then the Pirate Party, better. And we can go Tories, Whig Party, I can keep going. One of them better issue a Supreme Court challenge, because the Supreme Court can compel the U.S. Post Office to hand over all absentee ballots for counting and can override the Board of Elections' deadline about when the mail needs to get it delivered, so long as it is postmarked properly.
So long as it happens before the Electoral College meets.
So if this show were 2 weeks ago, we would be all on board voting by mail. It's different now.
Yeah, because we had the Friday Night Massacre, and since the Friday Night Massacre, they have pulled sorting machines, they have pulled mailboxes. The route carriers have started to whistleblow about the fact that mail is being, they're receiving, like, instead of having mail for every house on the street, even though they know they should have mail for every house on the street, there are days when they're receiving mail for every other house on the street from the central sorting facilities. I personally know of a letter, a regular first-class stamped letter that was sent to me that has gone missing. It was sent with 3 others from the same person. I received 2 out of the 3. I have called, where's my missing 3rd letter? Their answer is, well, give it 2 months. After 2 months, we can start a missing mail inquiry.
That won't meet the requirement for 3 days after the election.
No.
To have it show up.
And if we look at the financial ties Joy has, he has financial ties to the paid courier services. You want to talk about conflict of interest?
So going back to the stand in line thing, one of the fellows in the Tuesdays with Tillis group that I play with has had the training for being a election worker. And they have an extensive Q&A for election workers. And this is the way that question was handled for them. When dropping off our absentee ballots at the early voting site, do we wait in the regular line of voters? Or is there a different line for turning in the absentee ballot? The answer is voters returning their ballot to an early voting site will need to stand in line with those waiting to vote. The ballot must be logged in when it is returned by a qualified person permitted to return it. May I mail the ballot to the Wake County Board of Elections on Election Day? Well, that is going to be a really stupid thing to do, but you can. Please take it
postmarked.
Take it to the post office and have them postmark it in front of you so that you know that it got the postmark. And then it will get lost in the mail and never delivered in time.
Not for 2 months.
Or delivered on Monday of the next week when it's too late.
Yep.
So some other interesting things that came up in that Q&A. Will voters be required to wear face masks?
They better be.
Currently, the CDC recommends that most people wear a face covering. We will offer a face covering to any voter who does not have one. However, we cannot refuse voters their right to vote if they refuse or cannot wear a face covering based on their individual circumstances.
I will spray them in the eyes with Lysol. Y'all better get that assault bail fund going.
How will social distancing work at voting locations? The answer was, we don't know yet. More guidance on this will be provided closer to the election. In fact, there were a lot of questions in that Q&A that we'll have the answer later in September or in October. So,
it's a mess. The whole thing's a mess, and it's going to get worse before it gets better.
So my plan...
If you really legitimately cannot wear a mask, you better be curbside voting. If you come into my polling place, I will spray you in the eyes with Lysol.
Yeah, I'm going to start asking more about the curbside and see if we can get some firm answers for next week about how that's going to work. Because
that's the ADA's accommodation.
Yeah. If it becomes a real big thing, it's going to overwhelm their ability to handle curbside voting.
It'll just be slower.
Well, I mean, it could be like instead of having 50 people stand in line, parking 50 cars outside of these places. That's a logistical nightmare.
My polling place can accommodate a 50-car park.
Well, we'll see. Don't have the full answer to that yet. We will see. But at least we know it is a thing. Anybody Anybody planning on watching the Democratic National Convention coming up this week?
No.
I wish I was excited about this.
I we know who's gonna get it. Like, it's like watching the Oscars after the list of winners has already been announced.
Yeah, and I'm not holding my nose to vote for Biden, but I'm also not excited to vote for Biden. He's just sort of, he's there, and I'll vote for him. He's better than Trump, and so I'll vote for him. But I have nothing about this stimulates me or makes me think that this is going to be great and exciting and fun to watch. It's just going to be acceptance speech and whatever else. So no, I'm not watching.
I don't watch the Oscars for the pageantry. I watch the Oscars just to find out who got the particular spots, and I don't watch. I've never wanted to watch a political rally or a political convention. It's never really been my thing. I watched one and I was like, this is exactly the self-congratulatory, pat ourselves on the back, confirmation bias I expected it to be.
When you legitimately don't know who the candidate's going to be, it can be interesting. But that hasn't happened for a while, and no.
Do you guys get any kind of rah-rah enthusiasm about any candidate? Any political action or activity?
I was excited about Warren. I was excited about Sanders, like legitimately excited about the things they would try to do.
I don't know that I do, because I know how, by design, inefficient the political system is. So I don't know that I get excited with the rah-rah enthusiasm. I have hope. Hope is definitely a feeling that I have, but not enthusiasm, I don't think.
I mean, Breandan, would you show up at a rally and literally cheer, scream your lungs out?
No.
I've never been into celebrity culture.
But I also don't go to like rock concerts for the same kind of reason. That's not my scene. Crowds of people, even before the pandemic, wasn't my thing.
I think I've
celebrity culture is just. I'm not looking for a messiah. I'm just looking for a competent employee.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good way to put it. I think I've been to a rock concert where I was kind of carried away enough to scream a little bit. But I haven't been to very many.
I do cheer on when people are very, very good at what they do. I've been to concerts where the musicians have been excellent, and their songs I think are great, and I cheer and I give them standing ovations, as you do, because you are appreciating their performance.
In that sense, Obama spoke at NC State a number of years ago when he was president, and I was working at NC State at the time, and I stood in line and I got one of the tickets to go see him. It was free. You had to wait in line to get a pass because it was a capacity issue for the venue. And I mean, when he finished his speech, everybody cheers or everybody snizzles and claps. It's like, yeah, okay, standing ovation, great. I'm into that. But it's not I'm not part of the crowd who is shouting and doing response stuff during. That's not my thing.
Yeah.
I don't need you to sign my underwear. I'm just not that into you. You're good at your job, and that is why you get clapped for. The end.
So I think I'm going to watch some of it. I'm going to have YouTube TV watch probably MSNBC for me. And then I'll selectively dip in and out of stuff on a little bit, delayed playback. Mostly I'm curious to see technically how they pull it off, what they do. I've watched the conventions and speeches bit by bit, little bits here and there, and often on significant delay, probably watching on YouTube. But yeah, there's no grab me by the heart and, make me cheer stuff going on in politics.
I will say Obama came and spoke at UNC as well, not just state. And I took the kids I was nannying for to that. Bless their parents for letting me do that. Because I said, I'm not trying to convert your kids politically. He's the sitting president, and this would be cool for them to see a president, not just on TV. And I did have a moment where I felt that I connected with him and liked him as a person, not just a politician. And that was because it was a very hot day, and there was one woman, there was an individual, I think it was a woman, who needed water, and we were signaling to get her water and to get some medical attention. And the people who were giving the medical attention just straight up didn't see it or didn't hear it or couldn't identify it. And Obama just stopped himself mid-speech looked out at the audience and said, "What do we need?" He could hear. It gets on his microphone and he's like, "Yo, medics, there," and like really brought attention. And I was like, that is the sign of somebody who is willing to put humanity before their own ego. And I liked that as a man in it, but I still wouldn't like strip bare and say, "Sign my genitals." So, well,
it's one of those.
We've gone from underwear to genitals.
Yeah, you're advancing rapidly.
There are, I'm just trying to think of like the rabid fans of people. Like, what is the rabid fans? What do they do?
But even if you didn't agree with Obama's policies, he was a competent orator. He was able to read the crowd and watch what the crowd was doing and see how people were reacting and how he needed to subtly shift what he was doing. And if that means stopping his speech to assist somebody in the audience, he's going to do it because he's good at that. He understands how that works. And so, yes, I think he was also a very competent statesman, but he was a really good public speaker. He's really effective at it.
Interesting thing about that is that he had not literally been doing that all his life. He was a state senator for a term, a U.S. senator for less than a term, and president. And so
but he was also an attorney. I mean, being lawyers, this is one of those, like, within each discipline, there are specific things that are within law, especially academic law. When they give presentations at conferences, they don't read off of notes. It is considered high marks to be able to ad lib as a good orator. So he was in that world where that was a highly prized skill to start with, long before he became a politician. Like in science, the highly prized skill is to be able to anticipate any questions. So you show your first slide, and then you hopefully take questions where you can be like, and on my next slide, I'd destroy that question you just asked. And then in philosophy, it is to be able to get up and hold the paper that you are reading in front of you and just read that paper to other people without boring them. But like and those are the only conferences I've been to. But each discipline has its own thing, and it just so happens that law has the ability to, you might have minimal notes. It's highly prized to sound like you're orating off the cuff and still managing to read the crowd and cover all of your important points.
He was good at it. Mm-hmm. Your genitals notwithstanding. Hey, you brought them up.
Just
no, I like, what is it when you see the rabid fans on TV who are screaming for the boy bands? What is it that the rabid fans are doing? And I was thinking like throwing underwear at them and like stripping bare and going, "Sign me!" Those are the things that you see people do.
I stopped watching TV a long time ago, so
I'm rethinking Jen as a host of the show.
She should be the host of the show, not a host. Anyway,
no, I think that's fine. So what I'm interested in seeing is just how they put this together in this era of pandemic and maybe it'll be better because they won't have the massive crowds of cheering people.
Can I place my bets that it's going to look like a lot like the historically black college and universities graduation program that they put on?
I didn't see that. What did that look like?
A lot of celebrities saying meaningful and moving things interspersed with a lot of like self-congratulatory, "You've done it, you're doing it, keep doing it" kind of statements.
Yeah, I did see some of that, I guess.
And then a keynote at the end from Obama where he delivered the same speech that he delivered to the high schools, except with a couple of words changed.
Yeah. One thing I noticed in, I think, a Washington Post article is that they are distributing dozens of video production kits to improve the image and especially the sound of the online participants. They are sending microphones. I don't know if they're going to be BAMs. Probably not. But the article said that it includes dozens of speakers who have been mailed video production kits with basic equipment like microphones, lighting, and advanced routers, so they can produce and transmit their own shots. Because as apparently somebody has discovered, most people pretty much suck at making their Zoom video. So what I'm thinking of is they should have enlisted the nation's podcasters because we're ready for it. We know how.
And from my limited
but do they
experience,
want to hear what we have to say?
In my limited experience with video work, audio is harder than video in terms of getting a clean audio signal is more difficult to capture live than getting a clean video signal. So it's just one of those things.
This device I'm holding in my hand, my phone, makes great video from 30 feet away and terrible audio.
And the phones now have all the magic, stabilization and face tracking and automatic exposure compensation based on where the faces are in the room. And all of that can be done live dynamically with the software in the camera. And the audio is still just listening to whatever the room gives it. And
I mean, the audio is good if you've got it this far away from you. But 20 feet away, it's terrible.
Yeah.
That's why all the ones who are doing it are using the AirPods. I'm pointing to my ear like you can see it. The AirPods as their mics, because they need that distance. They don't have a long enough cord. My lavalier mic has a 100-foot cord on it, so I can be sufficiently far away from my camera and still cord it in. But if you're going to have to go Bluetooth, you want a good proper Bluetooth earpiece, and the AirPods are probably the only proper Bluetooth earpiece that can be counted on that most people have, just because it comes with iPhones.
Yep. So we discovered that sound is hard. Anyway, they're gonna provide these people with microphones. I want to see what microphones they give them. Are they going to be BAMs, the big ass mics, or are they going to just be well, who knows what? Probably the AirPod type things.
That's what I would do if I were handing things out, because lav mics and big mics, big fuzzy, they require some knowledge and some scope on where to put it, whereas an AirPod automatically puts the mic right about at your jawline. Fairly adequate place.
Yeah, I mean, having done podcasting for quite a while now and those things, you have a microphone that is right in front of your face, like I am now, or you move the microphone, 8 or 10 inches away, and it sounds terrible now. You have to talk really loud. And so teaching people basic microphone etiquette is hard at a distance. So I really agree that the in-ear whatever is going to be a better solution.
Probably what they're going to do.
Breandan, if I put my microphone right in front of my face, then it would be difficult to see my face, because I like big fuzzy. But I put it at so this is directly in front of me. This is a 45-degree angle off from me. The big fuzzy is right there.
Yeah, it sounds about the same.
Yeah.
I worked my mic a little bit too close. I can probably go back a little bit from it. But this room is noisy and echoey, and the computer's sitting right behind it, making a constant noise sound. So,
and if you are prone to sibilance, which is where your S's are very S-y. Now I'm having to say this directly into my microphone, which I am. I have a tiny little gap between my front two teeth, and therefore I'm prone to sibilance. You want it off from being directly in front of you, because then I blow my little S's directly in front of me, and the mic doesn't pick them up.
Yeah, and I'm also doing the 45-degree thing. If I talked right into it, it would sound a little bit worse. But
also plosives.
That's why Big Fuzzy has fuzzies.
That's right.
They destroy my plosives.
Sort of.
Other people have pop filters, but.
Yep.
Yeah, I just have a bit of stretchy blue whatever on mine. Anyway, I unfortunately need to head out of here pretty shortly.
Yeah, I was going to say this is the time when your pumpkin turns into a coach.
That's right.
I always get that backwards.
It works out either way. Our garden's very prodigious this year with all the rain, so we're actually growing pumpkins that are like this big, which is kind of crazy.
Yep.
And of course, for the audio audience out there, my hands are this bigger than my head. We have gigantic pumpkins. They're kind of awesome.
Can I stake a claim for one of them? I make a mean pumpkin soup. I will return it to you as pumpkin soup.
Sure. I will set one aside for you.
I haven't been able to find any pumpkins for pumpkin soup in a very long time, and I have all the ingredients, and I really want to make some.
It's too bad that the state fair is canceled for this year. You could enter it as a awesome sized pumpkin. Although to win first prize, you have to have a pumpkin that's 600 pounds,
like a forklift pumpkin.
Yeah.
No, we're not there yet.
Looks like Jabba
my daughter
the Hutt.
planted a handful of things from the state fair last year, and one of them was a pumpkin plant that grew out of a pot, and it has grown around the stairs of the house several times. It's just sort of taking over. I'm tempted to name it Audrey 3, but...
Feed me. For those of you who are younger than me, on the audio audience specifically, or any audience really, you go to Google right now and type in Little Shop of Horrors. I do believe that you can piece together all the clips to get the whole show from YouTube.
It is so good. It is such a good movie.
It's great. And the music is great. If you like the music of Hamilton, you'll like Little Shop of Horrors.
My favorite line from it, must be fresh.
Okay. I'm going to hop off now. Thank you for having me again, and I will see you folks next week.
Yeah, welcome back, and glad you had a good vacation.
Yeah, I'm glad nothing happened. Hopefully nothing happens this coming week either.
It's been a dead week.
Hey, I hope UNC closes.
Honestly, yes. I hope they all go back to
We've got
remote only.
bingo with the free space, and I fear that we're gonna have a fifth cluster, and then we will have bingo even without a free space. And when you get bingo, you have closure, right?
That's the idea.
All right, see you next week.
Okay. Later.
And now, you know what this music is?
Time to talk about spectroscopy, which is what I got my undergraduate degree in.
Well, this is the Jen and Gary show. It could be the Sarah Jen and Gary show, but this time it's just the Jen and Gary show music. And do you want to peruse the show doc and see if there's something you want to talk about?
Yes, we're going to talk about spectroscopy, which is what I got my undergraduate degree in. Actually, I got my undergraduate degree in it's a bachelor's in chemistry, but I was an analytical chemist and I did spectroscopy. That was exactly the kind of chemistry I did for my undergraduate degree. And Duke used my beloved spectroscopy for a mask effectiveness study.
Oh, the mask thing. I was wondering where you were going with that.
Yeah, they did light spectroscopy, but here's a fun tip for those of you stuck at home with children who are doing virtual schooling. Grab a coffee filter and give them some Crayola markers. I cannot speak to any other brand. I can speak to Crayola. And have them color just on half of the coffee filter, either the inner circle or the outer ring. And then fold it up as a wedge and toss it in a cup of water, colored side down, and pull it out before all of the color migrates to the other side of the coffee filter. And then you can open it up, pinch it in the middle, so that now it looks like the bow tie pasta, and then stick a pipe cleaner in the middle, and you've made a butterfly. That is spectroscopy. That is liquid spectroscopy, which is what I did. I did liquid spectroscopy. I did gel permeation and high pressure liquid chromatography, GPC and HPLC, which is a kind of spectroscopy. So moving forward, let's talk about how getting colors to separate over the course of a travel through a medium would work for being able to tell if a mask is effective.
I was wondering where we were going with this.
Oh yeah, I came prepared to teach. So
and now Jen gets earnest.
So they did a mask effectiveness study at Duke where they had people have spittle in their mouth, as all of us should, unless you're Ben Shapiro, in which case you only know about dry ass mouths because you only know about dry ass body parts. I can explain this one to you later, Gary. And for anybody else, just don't look up Ben Shapiro and his great love of dry body parts. You'll be thankful you didn't. They
Shapiri.
Shapiro. Yes, he did not have a good week. We'll put it that way. He told on himself for being sexually incompetent. So they had people with spittle in their mouths put on a variety of masks, and then they used a device that used spectroscopy to be able to detect the little droplets of spittle that are usually undetectable to human eye. They also used a cell phone. That's one of the cool things. Like, cell phones, very, very good at video, not so good at audio. And they determined which masks were better at keeping your poxy spittle, your infectious spittle, your gross halitosis, bacteria and viral having spittle to yourself. And at no great surprise to anybody, N95s came in first. Surgical masks were damn near just as close. Those are those disposable paper things that, the people in the operating theater wear to not put their poxy ass spittle into the open body cavity of the person they're operating on. Surgical masks are not supposed to protect surgeons from the patient. They're supposed to protect the patient from the surgeon hawking a loogie into them.
But mostly, pretty much that's the opposite of everything else we do with masks.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and an N95 is made of plastic stuff, slightly porous plastic stuff, so that you can still breathe, because, you know, we've been told don't put a bag on your head and then you'll die of, you know, hypoxia. But N95s are made of plastic stuff, and plastic doesn't tend to let fluid go through it because it's plastic, and that's why we like it. Surgical masks are instead made of absorbent stuff, and so they just turn into a sponge and get wet, and then you have to replace them with a new one that's dry. But those were the best because they didn't let your breath, your spittle through. Polypropylene, and which is a woven kind or a non-woven kind of plastic. But again, polypropylene is more porous by design. It just has more holes in it. And double layered cotton, which both can absorb your spittle and has holes in it so you can breathe. They're good. I believe the data said that they only let about 20% or 1/5 of your spittle droplets through. Bandanas are letting half of your stuff through because it's even more breathable, which you would know because you just put them on your face and try and take a breath. You're going to breathe more easily through a bandana. And then neck gaiters, which are super popular, especially with children, because they don't pull on your ears. You pull it up from your neck and it just holds onto your head. By design of the material to give that gaiter the elasticity that it needs to be able to clamp down on your face, it's got to have it has to be knit in a particular way, and therefore it has the kind of holes that act like an aerator on a sink. They turn your big hucked loogies into smaller spray, but they do let the smaller spray out, and smaller spray is going to hang in the air longer. So
I've seen some follow-up that the gaiter industry was not happy with that.
Well, no, but then they also were getting a bump in sales based on something they weren't marketing themselves for anyway. So if I were the gaiter industry, I would just go like, oh, well, our free extra sales are gone, but like also we should probably go out and say, hey, we never told you to use this as a mask, like for protecting others anyway. So like, don't do crap without hearing from us anyway. Like you can turn it into a win. You can just claim we didn't tell you to, so stop it. Like then they get a win out of it. But
if they can show that there's some kind of gaiter that at least gets, you know, up to the bandana level, 50%. Bandana 50%, that's not good either.
No, the 1 out of every 2 loogies you hawk get straight through.
Yeah.
It is by the physics of the gaiter, which is why the other masks have ear loops or ties. If you have something that can stretch out enough to go over your face and then retract enough to pull back, it is gonna have to be knit in a particular way that provides those holes. It just is.
So, speaking of which, I am wondering if this goes on long enough, if the concept of mask fitting is going to become a thing. And, you know, I'm thinking of, you know, kind of like bra fitting, which is something I don't have any personal experience with. But I understand. I've seen the ads. I've seen the ads that say that more than half the women in America are walking around with poor fitting bras.
Oh, this is one of my favorite topics. Yeah. And go to reddit.com/r/a bra that fits. Because chances are you haven't worn a bra that fits. I definitely have not. When I first went to that website, I discovered that the bra size I thought I was completely wrong. And I have never been more comfortable in all my days.
We need a little bit more detail, if we can, without having to sign any genitals.
They tell, you know, and I was brought by my mother to, because I was a young girl when I got my first bra fitting. And then I just kept doing it the way Mom had taught me, because of course Mom would know, right? I was brought to a Victoria's Secret store where they did attack me with a measuring tape. And they did take the right measurements, but they took the right measurements in the wrong position. They had me standing upright, and what you want to do, and a bra that fits will tell you what you want to do, is you want to be orthogonal or parallel to the ground. So either bent over at the waist 90 degrees or, you know, doing a plank or something. And then they should do the measurement again around the puffiest part of your chest versus your rib cage. And the distance in measure, or the difference in measurement between that determines your cup size. So if you've got a 1 inch difference, that's an A, a 2 inch difference is a B, a 3 inch difference is a C, a 4 inch difference is a D, and so on and so forth. And after D is where America gets weird compared to the rest of the world, because a 5 inch difference anywhere else in the world is an E, but in America it's a double D. And then a 6 inch difference anywhere else in the world is an F. In America it's a triple D, because we just be weird like that. Apparently we're not going to let anybody fail.
Over there they use Celsius and they use meters. But we got it right, I'm sure.
But anyway, that's so definitely reddit.com/r/a bra that fits.
So did you end up with one that was bigger, smaller, tighter,
smaller
looser?
band, larger cups? So there are such things as sister sizes. Now that we're going on a separate tangent of bra sizes, sister sizes. So if you have a bigger cup, you can have a larger band can allow you to have a smaller cup that will still feel like it's got your breasts covered, which is great if, say...
Uh-oh. That's a freeze.
Yeah, I saw that. You're about to get married. You need a very, very particular bra color. The store only has like 6 of them in stock, and none of them are your actual size. You can wear a sister size. It's less comfortable than your actual size. It's going to have a smaller cup and a larger band, and you can get through like a day of a wedding, but that's not what you want to wear for everyday wear. You want, and when you wear the exact right size, my God, it feels like a second skin. It's not itchy or hurtful. But taking it back to mask fitting.
Well, wait, one more thing. I just because I remember the phrase, the Playtex 18-hour bra. And I don't know what that means. If it
fits right, you can wear it for 18 hours. You don't even notice. You don't notice it.
It doesn't have to be Playtex.
No. But Playtex were the first people to provide the cross your heart harness, which now is a lot more standard in a lot of bras. And you can see it because they've got now internal linings in the bras. This is a topic I know a lot about. I even know how to modify bras for better fit. Like if you're stuck with a sister size or you're stuck with an off size and you absolutely need it because you need to wear something in a timely manner, and you have a needle and thread, here's how you would modify it to get more comfort. You shouldn't. You should just get a bra that fits to start with. But we all have those moments.
Okay, and now we can do masks.
But yeah, respirator fitting is a real thing. Mask fitting, not so much, because the point of a mask is just to keep your poxy spittle to yourself, and so long as your nose and your mouth are covered, you're keeping your poxy spittle to yourself. It doesn't really have to fit your cheeks quite like a respirator does. And respirator fittings are real. Hospitals do them. You have to put a strange, weird, like plastic, funny alien head sort of spacesuit thing on your head with a tiny little hole in it. And then somebody has to come up to the tiny little hole with a squeeze bottle of orange or, pepper or poop smell and squeeze it in to little holes. Now your space helmet is full of the odor of poop, and then you have to tell the person who just squeezed a bottle of smell in what smell they squeezed in. And if you can't, that means your respirator, and respirators, unlike masks, respirators' job is to keep you from inhaling other people's germy shit.
That's that thing with the that makes you look like an alien. It's got the two things.
Yeah, well, or the N95s with the valve. That's a respirator, because that valve lets all of your poxy ass breath out. And this is another thing that came out of the Duke study, was that valve masks are ineffective, because it lets all of your hocked loogies, your infectious nonsense out. The valve just doesn't let anybody else's in. It's a one-way valve. It's an out-only valve from your mouth out. So it's not really blocking anything. But then N95s they're respirators. They're not designed to block you from sharing your nonsense with other people. They're designed to block other people's nonsense from getting into your nose and mouth.
But they were still the most effective at.
Well, yeah, because they're made of plastic, and they're made of plastic with very, very small holes, unless they have a valve, and then they've got a very, very big hole. The study does make a mention of valves on N95s as not allowing, or as being not the N95s they're talking about.
Okay, so we got a couple different kinds.
Yeah.
All right, so effectiveness is one part of the equation, but I'm thinking comfort too. And that's, that's where we're at the bra fitting thing. Because wearing one of these things for hours and hours, if it's not comfortable enough, you're not going to do it. We're going to get this.
Yeah, there's ear fatigue. And for those who can't see, Gary has just covered his mouth and let his nose hang out. And then he has just covered none of anything except for his chin. And I found there's a great website that said, hey, I'm a respiratory therapist. Here's what I've noticed. I personally am not a respiratory therapist. I'm quoting the website. That she's a respiratory therapist, and here's what she's noticed is nobody's been taught how to breathe in a mask. A lot of people resort to mouth breathing in a mask, and you need to nose breathe in a mask.
To say why?
Because of your parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems, which I don't know if we have enough time to get into, but let's just say parasympathetic nervous system is your chill out. It's the chill out of your body. It's how you calm down. When you've had a tough day and you get a massage, that's activating your parasympathetic nervous system. When you're feeling stressed and you eat a pizza, you're not just, people call it stress eating, but like actually eating the pizza stimulates your vagal nerve, which is part of your parasympathetic nervous system. And it actually has biochemical effects of chilling your body out. When you do slow breathing, that has some pressure changes in your chest. It stimulates nerves that are part of your parasympathetic nervous system and really does biochemically chill you out. The opposite of the parasympathetic nervous system is, and I hate this name because it just does not, we talk about sympathy as a good thing, but it's not here. It's the sympathetic nervous system, and the sympathetic nervous system stresses you the hell out. It is the thing that goes, whoo, that has startled me. Okay, what I need to do is I need to kick up the adrenaline, kick up the cortisol, get this body ready to run and fight and kill that tiger. And that's your sympathetic nervous system. And when you have cloth over your nose and your mouth, and you are breathing with your mouth, and your mouth can tell there is a barrier there, that activates your sympathetic nervous system. It sets off that animal part of your brain that's ready to fight the tiger, and it freaks you out. Even if your brain, your conscious brain is going, dude, it's just a piece of cloth. Your body is ready to run away because it thinks it's going to die imminently. But if you nose breathe, your nose point, the point of your nose is holding the cloth of the mask out away from your nose. It'll come back in around your mouth, but it's holding it out away already, that when you nose breathe, you don't get that instant barrier feel. And so you are not activating your sympathetic nervous system. Remember, sympathetic being the freak out. On top of that, when you nose breathe, you naturally take slower breaths, which then activates your parasympathetic or chill out nervous system.
Okay, so if you find yourself breathing through your mouth with the mask on, immediately grab the first piece of pizza you can find and shove it in your face.
That's one of the ways. The other way is just switch to breathing through your nose and just make your exhales take one count or one beat longer than your inhales for about 5 breaths, or do box breathing. Box breathing is breathe in, hold it, and then breathe out. Box is an acronym for breathe. I forget what the O stands for, but hold it, and then X is the exhale. Either one of those will do. Also, you can do another fun trick, which is clench every muscle in your body really, really, really tight all at once, and then release it. That also activates your parasympathetic nervous system, and it tells your the animal part of your brain, like, hey, we had a really quick fight with that tiger, and we fucking won. And then your body chills out.
Oh, got to press the explicit button now. So,
yeah.
So this is a mask that Cindy got. It actually came from Best Friends.
I like masks like the one that Gary is holding up, and I call those duck masks, but they have a built-in curve. For those of you on the audio only, they have a built-in curve that will hold the fabric away from your nose and your mouth, which is good.
And a wire, it's an underwire, an overwire, I guess, in this case.
Yeah, to seal on your nose, because you don't want to blow your, trust me, you don't want halitosis going in your eyes.
And the other thing it's got,
each of us have halitosis,
is this adjustable thing on the elastic, so you can make it tighter and looser.
Yeah.
Which that's been my biggest issue with putting one of these on, is that within about 10 seconds, it hurts behind my ear.
And if you do not have an adjustable thingy on your ear elastics, get a set of pony beads. Dollar Tree has them. Like, you can get hundreds for $1, and put one of those on. A pony bead will act in the same manner.
And then this is clearly 2 layers, which I guess is important.
Yes, because 2 layers of cotton are better than 1 layer of cotton.
And this inside one is it's a little shiny smooth.
Yeah,
feels comfortable, feels good.
It's designed not to stress you out.
Yeah.
The goal is not to, you don't want to activate. And a lot of people that's been a lot of people's, especially trauma patients or people with trauma who say, like, I cannot have a mask on. It feels like somebody's got their hand over my face. It's because you can sense, your skin is not an idiot. Your skin can sense that there is a barrier there, and it does try and activate your sympathetic nervous system. Again, remember, sympathy is bad in this context. And so you want to do what you can to make it not.
Let's help them out. What would be a better word for that? Antagonistic nervous system?
I just call it the stress system. But that will not get you an A on your anatomy and physiology exam.
So what I have not mastered is the ability to put this on and get it so that it doesn't fog up my glasses.
That's because you've got it too low. Pull it up higher. Pull the nose piece up higher. You want your glasses to sit. There you go. That will keep you from fogging up your glasses, because your glasses now are helping seal it from fogging up your glasses.
It's still fogging a little bit. And I can't see anything because my glasses are miscalibrated.
But yeah, for those of us, and those on the audio podcast probably don't know, I wear glasses. Gary wears glasses. I think Breandan wears glasses. Sarah is the only one of us who does not wear glasses. You want your nose piece up almost where your glasses nose piece is if you're wearing a mask, because then that uses the bottom of your glasses to help seal, to prevent your halitosis breath from coming up your cheeks and into your eyes and fogging up your glasses.
And I guess that's a measure of how little I spend time in places where I'm at risk, or at risk to myself, or at risk of giving my potential COVID-laden breath to other people, is that I rarely have the opportunity to wear this because I'm just not in those places.
Yeah.
Where
the other thing is, if you've got a lot of stuff fogging up your glasses, you're probably not breathing through your nose. Now there's going to be that initial fogging just due to the temperature gradient, but then after that and after it clears, if you're still fogging your glasses, you're probably not breathing through your nose, and you really are going to want to, because it's going to make it more comfortable overall.
But hey, this is way more comfortable. Underneath the nose, just covering the mouth.
That doesn't even, that number one doesn't protect anybody else, but number two also doesn't protect you. And in the sense that any barrier in between you and somebody else's COVID is a good barrier, now you don't.
Yeah. But that's why people do it, because it feels so much better.
If you're taking off your mask, speaking of any barrier in between you and somebody else's COVID, if you're taking off your mask, don't turn it into a beard. Because your neck, the bottom part of your neck, has been exposed to whatever anybody else has been coughing out. And if you do that, you are putting the interior of your mask directly onto whatever anybody else has coughed out, and then you're pulling it back up right over top of your nose and snorting whatever anybody else has coughed out. If you're going to take off your mask, take it off at your ear loops, fold it in half, interior to interior, so the interior is not picking up what anybody else is coughing out, and put it in a pocket.
Maybe by next week I can show you the video that I was in a couple weeks ago for how to don and doff PPE. I was an extra sitting in the background, and I'm awesome. I steal the scenes that I'm in. But I can't play it yet because I've seen it, but I can't play it yet because it hasn't been released to the public. But it will be, and be fun, something fun to play. Is there anything else in here that it's technically it's 6 o'clock?
Time.
Yeah,
I brought us right up to see. I was a good teacher.
Yep.
I got my time management on point.
But we haven't had a chance to talk about TV and podcasts and movies and stuff. I'd want to ask you something about Make Me Smart, one of your favorite podcasts.
Yes.
And one of my favorite podcasts, and one of my examples of, it's a YouTube show that uses the big ass microphones and the big ass headphones, and it's a podcast.
I have never watched it on YouTube. I only listen to it on my podcatcher, which I like because my podcatcher is owned by NPR, which is Pocket Casts.
So my question is, Kai or Molly?
I have long had a great affinity for Kai. He used to be when I would back in college when I had a job, because I worked my way through school, no student loans here. Also, don't work your way through school. Just pay off student loans. Honestly, it's going to be a better school experience. I would drive home from the lab I was working in at 6:30, which was marketplace time. And I had no idea what Kai's face looked like. All I knew was that his voice always seemed, he was so calm about tragedy and reassuring in his voice. So I liked him a lot. I had a voice crush on him. And then I saw his face and I was like, oh, yes, this is why you do radio. I like Molly as well. I feel like she's a successor to him.
March 11th, I went out to dinner and I was like, ooh, we probably shouldn't be doing this, but I feel like it's
That's
of
Molly.
Goodbye dinner. Yep. And then March 11th, Wednesday, was the day that Tom Hanks announced that he and his wife had tested
That's
positive.
Kai.
I did know.
The NBA.
For those of you that don't know who we're talking about.
Yep.
And then some other momentous thing happened that I cannot even remember. There was something else that day.
Yeah, but
that's how crazy that day was.
It was the same thing at my house. We were like, oh, man, this is
okay. So you're warming up to Molly?
Yeah, I like her. Like the Make Me Smart was my introduction to her, and I think Kai made a excellent choice, or maybe Molly made an excellent choice in a co-host. I like her too. She and I don't have the same kind of relationship in the sense that listening to anything makes a relationship when it's one-sided, but I haven't had as much experience with her voice and her personality as I have with Kai Risdall, but that man explaining the Big Mac Index could activate my parasympathetic nervous system and calm me down, because he was always the thing that signaled the end of a stressful workday and going home and being able to goof off, kick back, and watch TV. So at this point, his voice is a parasympathetic trigger.
So I had been listening to Kai on Marketplace for a long time since he took over from David Brancaccio. And for a while, I liked David Brancaccio better. He seemed a little calmer. And then I warmed up to Kai. But I'd also been listening to Molly because Molly came from the podcast world. She came from CNET, Buzz Out Loud. She'd been on some of the tech shows because she's a tech girl. And she grew up in the podcast land, which is definitely, for most podcasts and for the one she was on, less formal and more conversational. And so then, and they hired her on Marketplace not to do a podcast, but to be the fill-in anchor on the 6:30 Marketplace show. And I'm thinking, this is going to be a bad fit because she's out of her element there. She had not been a radio person. And sure enough, the first week or so that she was doing this, and I'm not telling tales out of school because she admits that they talked about it on the podcast. Her first week or so, she was terrible. She was awkward and her timing was off, and you could hear a little nervous in her voice. And then she got in the zone, and she's never been out of the zone since. She handles the show when Kai is away absolutely professionally. But the podcast is a different animal. On the podcast, she was absolutely at home, and Kai was out of his element.
Yep. I had the same experience. I expected to come into a fully polished Kai because all I had ever, I'd been listening to Marketplace since David Brancaccio as well. But even then, Kai took over and he was polished from the start.
I'm going to say stick up his butt.
I expected a fully polished Kai, and instead I got a fully polished Molly and a nervous, out of his element, fumbling around Kai, and I loved it. I'm not gonna lie. I loved seeing with my ears. I loved seeing with my ears. That other side, that Kai Ryssdal had a side where he could be unflappable, because I had listened to him make gaffes with his own script that he'd written for himself on Marketplace, and like cover for the gaffes beautifully, like just not missing a beat, fully polished, even though he'd made mistakes. And now here he was making mistakes, and his ability to cover for even his own mistakes was gone, and it was glorious. But he definitely, I felt, very much captured the role of somebody filling in for the audience writ large with having, the questions that we would have, because he was just bumbling so much. And I was like, yes, that's how we feel about this topic. Yes, please continue to represent us as you are. But he's gotten more polished, and that makes me grumbly, because now there's nobody who's playing the role of the audience.
Well, see, I wouldn't call him polished on the podcast. I would say he's just got more
polished.
But he's gotten relaxed. He's doesn't have the stick up his butt anymore. And now they banter, they have fun, they are their real selves for the most part. As much as you and I are our real selves doing this show, which is only, there's a performance aspect to it. There is.
My real me is a lot more judgmental than my podcast me.
The real me is a lot more subdued and boring than the podcast me.
The real me got asked how I felt about the Dune series of books, and podcast me would discuss their pros and their cons, and the real me was like, I gave it a 3 out of 5.
Oh yeah, Dune. Yeah, I read them. I read maybe the first one, and
I'm a completionist. I read all of them because I can't not, and I definitely feel entirely average about them. But podcast me, which is who you're hearing right now, would discuss the pros and the cons, and would remind the listeners that just because I have an opinion of something doesn't mean that I am right, that everybody's opinion is valid. Real me looked at the person asking me the question and went, I was ambivalent. I don't care. And then gave subsequent dirty looks when the conversation continued forward about the books that I had just said I'm really not that into. Podcast me would not. Podcast me would find a way to just engage in a continued conversation of something I'm not that into.
Yeah, that's being a pro. So the question now is, does Kai's podcast experience leak into the broadcast now?
I have not noticed.
Maybe a little.
I've noticed that I've heard him laugh more. He has laughed more. That I can say, but otherwise it just still sounds to me like he's reading copy off a teleprompter.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and play some, but I think that it has softened him up as a broadcaster a little bit. But he definitely learned. He's still not good at the podcast part. He's getting better, but he's not. It's like he wants to be super casual, but the professional broadcaster in him holds him back a little bit.
I can agree with that. I can absolutely agree with that.
Yeah. So, and there's a big difference. I mean, my history is radio a little bit, but I learned radio from a guy who turned radio on its head. He was a talk show guy in Chicago. Back when they were calling them shock jocks, because he was one of the first guys who would say the word penis on broadcast radio. Oh my God, he said penis. And he did a different kind of a show where it was just him talking. He had a co-host bantering. The best example I've got is one time he had some medium level celebrity on, and the medium level celebrity says, "When are we going to start the show?" Because they had been talking. And he said, "We're 20 minutes into the show, dude." Oh, I didn't know we started yet. And that is what podcasting is more about. You still don't hear very much of that on broadcast radio.
No, time is way more money on broadcast.
Well, Howard Stern does that now and did that then. He was the guy I'm talking about, his name is Steve Dahl, and no one has heard about him, but everybody's heard of Howard Stern. And back in the day, back in the 80s, Howard Stern in New York and Steve Dahl in Chicago, and they were the two people doing this. And I don't think Howard Stern ever mentioned Steve Dahl's name. Steve Dahl mentioned Howard Stern's a lot because he thought, I did this first, and Howard Stern's copying me. Anyway, it's how I learned to do a show and just chill out. And is your phone dying?
Well, yes, we're all born dying.
No. Is your phone got 1% left? I'm seeing
2%. I'm sitting at 2% right now.
I'm sitting at the video flash. So so last time when your phone died, you just froze, and then eventually just hung up.
Well, I expect that'll happen again.
Yeah, I didn't see this video flashing before though.
No, I don't think. I think that's a processor issue, not a battery issue. But it's very interesting.
Okay. Well, I've kept you into 10 minutes worth of overtime, so I feel I've done my job. And you're not frozen. You're still there.
No, I'm still here.
So, what do I got to do here? Thank you, Breandan, for being on the show. Looks like Sarah never quite made it. You are Nanny Jen.
Yes.
Host of Nannycast.
Nannycast.
I am Gary Pearce. This has been episode 107, a chat room. We've had fun. Just us yakking. August 16th, 2020. It is the Triangle Talk Show. Push that button.
Over and out.
Oh, yes. I almost forgot the most important part of the show. Over and out.